welcome to a new Harry's Garage video, and today's car is the Mini Cooper SE, and the E is, yes, for electric. This is the electric version of the new Mini. There is also a new petrol version of the new Mini out there, but I actually wanted to get the electric one in first because 4 years ago I tried the Mini Electric and I really enjoyed it, but it had a fatal flaw, and that was range. They quoted 140 mile range, which is pretty awful. In real world, it seemed to be around the 90 mark, but it felt like a hot hatch. It had great handling and was just a bit of a giggle to drive. But I just couldn't have owned it with that sort of range. Now, wind on to 2024, and there is a new Mini Electric out, and it has a much bigger battery, and the range has been transformed. This is a pretty easy over 200 mile range electric Mini. Does it still have those genes of the Mini Cooper S that I enjoyed in the previous version? Well, let's go and have a closer look. Now, the design has been freshened up, and it is I say a modern look. I think it's quite a clean design now. I like how the headlights are less fussy. I'm not quite so sure about why this has to be such a big grille, this all-encompassing, and the colour across it, but that's the new look. Radar in here. The S is the hotter version. You can get a Mini Cooper E with slightly less performance and a smaller battery. I would suggest it's about 4,500 extra to get the S version, and it comes with a bigger battery. So I think most people will probably go for that. Design cues that are sort of missing. If you looked at the previous version, this had a sort of plastic rim around it. They've cleaned it up and brought the metal down, so it's a one-piece metal rather than having that sort of slightly fussy wheel arch extension in black plastic. The wheel size is 18-inch, 225/40 tires, normal brakes, but it's still got the Mini signature flying roof, so the white roof with the black pillars to make it all look as though it's floating in designer speak. Flush door handles here, again the lack of eyebrow around the wheel arch. That's your electric charging port there, so you've got two versions of AC and DC in there, all very easy. Quite quick charging on it as well. It's 11 kilowatt charging on an AC and about 95 on DC. Round the back, and again, a very clean design. They've still got a sort of Union Jack going on with these rear lights, but less pronounced on this version. Easy script on it, Cooper S, and yeah, a little boot on it, but dead easy on this, as all Minis, to tip the seats down should you want extra space. And one just thing on that, I like how sort of they go flat, and that's quite a lot of space in the back there. I have no idea what's hiding under here. Oh yeah, charging cable in there, and looks like a woofer, subwoofer, or something like that. Now in Cooper form, you can only buy the electric Mini in 3-door format rather than 5-door. Whether there's going to be a 5-door to come, I do not know. They do it in the petrol version, but not in the electric. And we'll have a better look at the interior when we get outside. Very modern. Yeah, it's all right, actually. I really quite like these seats. We'll come to those in a minute, but I just want to clamber in the back to see if I can sit behind me. And I can sit behind me. I'm reasonably comfortable back here. It's a little bit enclosed. I'm not going to the south of France in the back of there, but if someone offered me a lift, it would be all right. Just getting in and out of it is a bit of a squeeze. You can also check the engine on this electric Mini. I quite like that when I lift this up, it sort of looks like an engine of old. Almost looks like it's got a heater system in it. It probably has. I'm not quite sure what that is. It's got a 12-volt battery sitting there. I don't know. It's probably inverters and motors. And it's obviously front-wheel drive. This isn't a four-wheel drive electric car, but front-wheel drive. Now, what I'm interested, though, is does it still have that hot hatch feel that I expect from Mini? Let's take it outside, take it for a drive. All new when you get in here, all very mad and dominated obviously by that display, which we'll come to in a moment, and all the things that can do. But just some of the materials, just when you look around, it's sort of fresh. There is no leather in this car. Even things that look like leather are not leather in this car. And then there's this sort of textile finish that isn't, and you can't decide if it's, what is it, plastic? What's this strap do? And it's just a design detail, which is all very nice. But it's typical Mini. I noticed on the wheel, you think, oh, there's a spoke down there. No, that's a sort of fabric strap at the bottom of the steering wheel as well. Panoramic roof. There are options on this car. I ought to just say the options just so we quickly know what they are. The colour, well, that's an extra blazing blue, £550. The wheels, 18-inch slide spoke, two-tone, £550 as well. And then inside we have, this is the exclusive pack on here, 2,200, which gives you the sport steering wheels, they term it, roof in white. Bought seats. Now these seats I think deserve a special mention. They are old Mini-esque, and although they are leatherette, they are plastic sort of covered rather than leather, you wouldn't really guess. And I like the fact that it's got Isofix, 3 Isofix in this car, 1 in the front obviously and 2 in the back, which just comes as standard as far as I can see. Yeah, all told, this car on the road, £39,220. Yeah, a chunk of money, isn't it? Nearly £40,000. I'm going to turn it on because it's quite warm today. Very odd. It hasn't been like that inside in the UK for a while, but 29 degrees at the moment. First thing, on being a 24 car, I will quickly turn off. How you do that? I press that button down. Speed warning limit, that has to think about it, and then it will be deactivated, and then I go back to here and then lane departure warning, yes, deactivate now. All that is done. And to get moving, gear change is this little toggle here. I should have mentioned actually how I powered it up. No button, a sort of key that isn't a key but a twist thing here with stop start on it. They've moved away from the press start on it. And on the wheel I've got cruise modes over here and control, phone and radio on there, and this strange head-up display that Minis do, which is a separate bit of glass, plastic, whatever it is, that then reflects up at me. So instead of having the dash that was on the previous version, I only get that, and then that long pillar box look out onto the windscreen, which is sort of narrower and further away than you expect. And I've shown you the seats I can actually get in. Oh, an armrest as well. I don't know if that's standard on it, but there is an armrest on this Mini. Anyway, let's get going. As I say, I'm keen to know how this car feels when I get it on that better bit of road I do all the tests on. Now on here, next to where you turn it on and off, there is these experiences, and we'll run through those. So it starts off in something called car, something called go-kart. Wait for it. Woo! That is supposedly its more sporting look. What I can't work out, I've only had a long day with this car, is whether it actually alters anything else within the car, the actual parameters. The dampers don't seem to adjust. This is very annoying. We float off into green mode. I'll do that when we're underway, because that is a really annoying one. But yeah, it starts off in core mode. Here we are. And there are these sounds you have, which you can turn off. Other things also down here, there's a wireless charging, which is good, and there's a little cubby box here and a cup holder in the back, I think. But let's get going. I have the sound on at the moment, so this car will make sounds as I accelerate away. Yeah, it's Doctor Who like or something, and I can feel a little bit of torque steer coming through the wheel, which is sort of a pleasant surprise, because you don't really get that in electric cars. They just go normally. But yeah, there is a sense that there's a bit of fun to be had in here, and it's a good display on this one. I mean, the default one actually has the navigation in the middle. I quite like this one. It does seem to be pretty efficient, this car, and I suppose it's a slipperier shape Yeah, I'm achieving 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour, which is a pretty good figure for the way I've been driving it. I've tested it on a noisy bit of road. It's about 72 decibels or thereabouts. You think it's noisier than it is on a cruise because you can hear tyre noise, but it's very deceptive sound. That's why I use a dB meter, because it dominates is the sound of the tyres, but it's not actually that noisy. What to just say about the range, ignore this 117 miles. When I picked it up, I think it was on a 216 mile range, usable range, always over 200 miles. I think you might eke out 230 or something like that. I'm just going to change this experiences. I'm just going to go to go-kart. I don't know why they have to add sounds. I think it actually enhances the cabin sound as we booted up the hill, and I just think it's all part of Mini, isn't it, having that, or electric performance cars like this, just the sounds. Right, here we are. Here's the D-limit sign. Let's see what happens. Oh, a bit of torque steer. It's like an old school hatch, sort of pulling around as I booted it there. Again, I think that's it, just slackens off the traction control slightly in go-kart. That's its sporting mode. But the punch up the hill, yeah, I mean, I think the claimed figures, 6.7 seconds to 62 miles an hour, is Mini's claim, and it flatters to deceive. It doesn't feel quite as punchy as that at higher speed. So as you accelerate from 50 to 70 or something like that, it doesn't feel like a 6.7 second car really. And there is a reason behind that, and I'm afraid it's to do with weight. I put it on the weight bridge earlier and it came out at 1660 kilos. I looked back and the previous Mini electric I drove in 2020 was 1360 kilos, 300 kilos lighter than today's version of the S, but it does have that bigger battery. That's where the extra range comes from. So a dramatic difference there in range, but my goodness, has it grown some weight. Oh, turns in there well. Oh, a little bit more torque steer over those sort of bumps. And yeah, I am feeling the road surface. It feels like a typical Mini. They never had good ride, and this one just has that jiggly, sporty sort of feel. It's definitely on the sporty side of comfort. I don't think it makes any difference if I go back to its normal setting. It makes it plays a funny little tune again. I can't sense there's any difference in the ride quality. I can feel that the accelerator doesn't quite have the initial punch, so they slow up the reaction to your accelerator foot and how much power it adds. But apart from that, very little difference. Slightly different sound, but it is pointy. It does feel the steering is quite quick, and it's quite quick to change direction. When we turned in there, yeah, it just dives into the corner, which is very Mini-esque. Over this little bump, yeah, as expected. Yeah, it doesn't swallow it, you feel it, but it's a strange sound, isn't it? They must spend days, weeks, months dreaming up these sounds, but they sort of all they've got to do is watch a few episodes of Doctor Who and they're there. Felt good round there. Yeah, I think it's time to do some likes and dislikes, because there's a sort of dislike I want to talk about there. The weight just blunts everything. The slight positive with the weight, at least they can place it where it has the least effect on its ride handling. It's not as though it's top heavy or anything, it's all down below, and therefore makes it feel pretty dynamic round bends like that. Its corners flat, it's quite exciting, and I like the way it's front wheel drive, and very definitely has a front wheel drive feel to it. I'm meant to be on the dislikes here, I'm not doing my job very well. Another dislike was price. This car is £34,000 in its SE mode, as tested 39,000. Previous one I tested, I think it was £23,000 on the road, but that was after a £3,000 government grant. But they have gone up, and I think the trouble they've got now is they've also got a new version of petrol hot hatch Cooper S out at the same time, and there's a slightly lower power of this, but it's much lighter than this, and that's £24,000, and it's about £27,000 in the same performance mode of this. So that's between 25 and 40% less money than you pay for the electric Mini Cooper S. That's quite a difference. Another thing on it, there's 5-door Cooper petrol version available. There is not in the electric one. You can only buy it as a 3-door, and I think with Renault 5 rocking up and the Alpine version of that, they're 5-door cars, and I think Mini have missed a trick there. Also not that keen on all the experiences. I don't mind go-kart, but some of the others, there's some weird ones on here. What we got, Core Green. I mean, this is a nonsense. Have a look at this one. Right, why do I need a flapping hummingbird saying, oh, I'm doing efficient? If I put my foot down, or I get high consumption and some tiger comes in or something. No, nonsense. Which is another one. Vivid, I've no idea, since put the radio on. And then I've got Timeless, which is this, what have we got? Oh no, I don't want radio, where's this one? Timeless, that gives it this classic dash layout like this. They all come with their own little tube. I'm in my favourite Benz, so I'm going to move on to the likes. And I just think it's the chuckability of this car. I can be quite naughty with this car. I get crazy sounds. So yeah, it just feels mini. That is a real positive with this thing, and I'm very pleased about that. Every time I see a Mini, it sort of feels like it's something to smile at. Another one I have not shown, my favourite button of all, drive off support. I thought you didn't have any way of controlling traction control. It's because they give it a weird name. Drive off support, they term it. And now if I just, there's nothing behind, all clear, if I just stop here and then try and move away, it's just wheel spinning and old style torque steer. We used to think that as a criticism, but in this age of endless four-wheel drive and very controlled cars and very safe cars, I love that I know this is a front-wheel drive sort of hot hatch. Not, I'm going to call it a tepid hot hatch, but that just makes me feel alive, and it brings out the child in me. And I'm sorry, but I just like the way it lays a set of 11s anytime you want, but look away from the standstill. So, do I think this is a better car than the previous version? I'm afraid it's not quite got the full-on fun factor of the previous version. The downside of the previous version just didn't last long enough. You only got 90 miles of it. So this is a much more rounded version of Mini Electric Cooper, and it is exciting to drive. But say it's more sort of mild hot hatch than full-on hot hatch, a member of the hot hatch club. But usability off the scale, freshness of design, I feel good in here. There is a showroom factor. I wish it wasn't so expensive, but every time I see a Mini I smile. I think we should be proud of it. Built in Oxford. I know this is built in China, this particular one, but they are going to move production of this car to Oxford, and that's to be celebrated as well. So I have enjoyed my time in it. It is an enjoyable electric car, and there aren't that many of those. There's a sea of dullness out here, but this one isn't dull. It's good fun, and I've really enjoyed it. I hope you've also enjoyed this video review. If you have, well, keep watching, keep subscribing. More videos coming on very soon.